Committee number 2, Appropriations, to whom is referred House Bill 166, State Auditor Payment Transparency. Respectfully report same back to the Senate with a recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Senators Driscoll, Guru, Larson, Salazar, and Smith. Senator Salazar, Chairman. Committee number 2, Appropriations, to whom is referred House Joint Resolution 1, amending Wyoming's Act of Admission for Earnings. Respectfully report same back to the Senate with a recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Senators Driscoll, Guru, Larson, Salazar, and Smith. Senator Salazar, Chairman. Committee number 2, Appropriations, to whom is referred House Bill 97, engrossed property conveyances near critical infrastructure. Respectfully report same back to the Senate with a recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Senators Driscoll, Guru, Larson, Salazar, and Smith. Senator Salazar, Chairman. Committee number 2, Appropriations, to whom is referred House Bill 86, engrossed public property and buildings amendments. Respectfully report same back to the Senate with a recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Senators Driscoll, Guru, Larson, Salazar, and Smith. Senator Salazar, Chairman.
Thank you, Randy. I see the son of the Vice President here, Josh Salazar. Josh, why don't you step in and wave hi to everybody? Welcome to the Senate. And Dr. Tom, if you could come up here real quick. Wanted to get this done before we got too crazy on Committee of the Whole and give you a chance to get out of here in case you need to leave. But we wanted to give you a token of our appreciation for being the doctor of the day today. A signed certificate.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks again. Got a lot of folks in here, Senator Landon.
Boy, Mr. President, they're kind of hard to see because, you know, the camouflage kind of makes it tough. But Mr. President, may I have privilege of the floor?
The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, this is the 7th annual Camo at the Capitol event. And we've got over 60 sportsmen and women, hunters and anglers, and they're from all over the state, Alpine all the way to Kirk County and all the way down here and across up to Cody. And they're here to learn a little bit more about the process in how to deal with crazy senators that, you know, but anyway, I hope that you would help me welcome all of our Camo at the Capitol folks. There's a reception tonight, but welcome them to the Senate.
Welcome to the Senate. You know, Senator Landon, that explains why I saw some nervous otters running away from the Capitol. They look pretty terrified. Okay. Madam Majority Floor Leader, that clears the desk.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate resolve itself into Committee of the Whole.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye. All opposed no. Motion carries. Good Senator from Hole in the Wall. Back to work.
Committee of the Whole will come to order. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 69. The reading clerk will please read the bill.
House Bill 69, Foreign Adversary Ownership of Control of Business Entities, sponsored by the House Corporations Committee, an act relating to corporations, partnerships, and associations. Was referred to Committee number 7, which returned to committee recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Senators Boner, Case, Dockstader, Landon, and Steinmetz. Senator Case, Chairman.
You've heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure? Senator Case.
Mr. Chairman, I move that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report it, do so with a do pass recommendation on House Bill 69, Foreign Adversary Ownership or Control of Business Entities. For an explanation of this bill, I would ask you call on the good senator from Orange Junction.
Senator Boner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, the House Bill 69 is the result of the interim work of the Corporations Committee dealing with tightening up our statutes dealing with business registrations. It came out of a situation that you may have read about in the press where our Secretary of State's office was involved with shutting down a entity that was unfortunately fundraising for the North Koreans' nuclear missile program. So this came to the attention of our good secretary. Obviously, this is a federal investigation, but unfortunately, that entity that was raising money for nefarious purposes was registered within the state of Wyoming. So it actually took them quite a bit of effort to shut down that business registration. And what the bill does is it actually makes that quite a bit easier. It gives it the clear authority to go ahead and do so. So the bill itself is relatively straightforward. Maybe just look at page 2, the bottom of page 2, and then on the top of page 3. This language is repeated throughout the bill. And so it gives the ability to administratively dissolve a corporation or any other type of entity that is owned or controlled by a foreign government deemed to be a foreign adversary under 15 CFR 791.4. And just for the edification of the body, that's Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, Cuba, Venezuela, the Maduro regime in Venezuela in particular. And so those are the sorts of entities that we're talking about, unless, of course, they've been approved by the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States. And so this is just one way to give the Secretary's office the option or a clear authority to shut down any sort of business entity that is owned by a member or that nationality. We're assuming that they're not going to do it without good reason, but the authority is there in the bill. So that's the idea. Fairly straightforward, difficult subject, but we want to be good partners to our federal partners, protecting our national security, and this is one way that we can do that. So I'll stand for questions on the bill.
Any discussion on the bill? Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do just wonder what the process would be like. We had some discussion on a prior bill along these lines, and I think this concept's fine, but what is the due process approach where if there's an interest in shutting it down by the Secretary of State's office because they deem from their own internal workflow that some entity is owned by a foreign adversary? It doesn't seem like there's a lot of requirement then for them to take any steps other than to axe a company from existence. They could prove to be wrong. We typically have some due process in place to allow a thoughtful shutdown. Maybe somebody says, well, no, I disagree. I am not associated with this government. Here's my justification. How does it actually play out other than just this straightforward authorization where the Secretary of State's office could cancel a company without recourse? I'm sure there's a process, but could you explain it?
Senator Nethercott.
Mr. Chairman, thanks. Just piling on the questions here before the committee gets the answers. Do we have any understanding of how many current companies are owned by an individual who would be from a country that is a foreign adversary? And so how many corporations in Wyoming are owned by a Chinese person or a Russian person or an Iranian person or North Korean? Probably not many from North Korea, but the other 3 countries, I would suspect, in light of the high volume of our corporate filings and our Chancery Court, that there may be more than we appreciate. So curious to know if we have that information.
Senator Case.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very, very, very much. I'm not sure we know. I'm just not sure we know. We're going to, I think there's a couple of things about this bill that are important, though, that I'd like to point out. One is that if you look on the language on page 2 at the bottom, lines 22, we're talking about a corporation that is owned or controlled by a foreign government or foreign non-government person determined to be a foreign adversary by the United States Secretary of Commerce and specified in 15 CFR 791.4A or successor regulation. And then there's an exception if it's been approved. So we're not actually we're not going out to do this. We're gonna find out if somebody's on this list, then we're gonna pursue the corporate dissolution. But Mr. Chairman, and it's very important, that is not the end of the process. And it preserves all the rights of appeal. The person whose corporation is dissolved can go and appeal to the court. It's much the same as a bill we had earlier involving copyrights. Do you remember that? Trademarks, and allowing for more rapid action in the area of trademarks. This may help with the corporate fraud that we believe is happening, and the immense number of filings that are using fictitious Wyoming addresses. It may, but it may not have any connection with that. But it is a tool. And I just kind of make a connection. The Secretary of State's office is able, when someone, it's kind of related, so bear with me a little bit, but if someone, say your property is being used and you're getting mail from registered agents or from other people, or even your county assessor saying that your property is being used by a company falsely, you can now contact the Secretary of State's office and sign a affidavit that this entity doesn't live here, it's not part of this, and the Secretary of State's office can administratively dissolve that entity. That happens now. It's something that is we're doing increasingly more of. In a way, this is kind of the same thing. This allows for the administrative dissolution of the entities, and it can happen fast and be quick, but the remedies of going to the court, Mr. Chairman, are preserved. So if there's a mistake, we can go there. But it can only be done if they're on this list. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everybody's up.
Senator Nethercott.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Yeah, so my point is the same, and so the list is the 5 countries. I forgot Cuba in my previous list. And so if a Chinese person is doing a global business that happens to be incorporated in Wyoming, we can administratively dissolve it without any other information, simply because it is owned by a person in China, maybe even, but incorporated here, and they aren't doing anything unlawfully or anything concerning national security. And so just a question, if the committee looked at that for any other sidebars without understanding the corporations that would be shut down, and I believe there would be some right now, that are doing legitimate businesses that are publicly traded, domiciled here in Wyoming, paying big dollars to the state, doing legitimate business, regulated by our Securities Exchange Commission, simply because many of the owners originate from China. And I'm not saying that's good or bad, I'm just saying that there is, I think, considerably more here to consider than what it might be being appreciated on a global market.
Senator Scott.
Well, Mr. Chairman, look very carefully at the language that was cited on page 2 at the bottom, page 3 at the top. To be administratively dissolved, they have to be owned or controlled by a foreign government or a foreign non-governmental purpose. And then you have a clause that applies to both of them. Determined to be a foreign adversary by the United States Secretary of Commerce and specified in 15 CFR, et cetera, or a successor regulation. So I think you have to meet all those conditions as I read the bill. So just because China gets on that list and some Chinese citizen does business here, I think the citizen has to be on the list too. Is the way I understood it when we dealt with it. And then you have an exception where the proper federal committee has made an exception. So it's not that we go in investigating, Mr. Chairman, whether it's the Chinese person is harmful. We rely on the federal government having made that determination. And so the dispute would be, oh, I'm not that person. But you wouldn't have a dispute, are you on the list or are you not on the list? That's very easy to establish. It's not something we would investigate to do. And frankly, the testimony was, as I remember it, that these things came to our attention because an agency of the federal government was investigating them and would call the Secretary of State and say, do you know you have thus and such corporation that is owned by somebody that is on these lists? So we're really trying to give the Secretary of State the power to, when the feds come to them and say, you got a problem here, to do something about it. And we're really relying on the federal government, as we should, because the federal government is predominant in foreign affairs. So I think we have to be careful not to see things that go bump in the night here. I don't think we're going to be investigating individual citizens of other countries to see if they're hostile to us. We're going to rely on the federals.
Senator Boner.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think my chairman answered the question from my colleague from Albany County, but if you go just in the statutes immediately after a lot of these, and the statutes referenced in the bill, you'll see the process. If you want to learn more, you can basically disagree with the secretary, ask for a reversal of the dissolution, and then you can take, if you disagree still, you have the opportunity to go to district court. So there is that safeguard. I think it's important to remember. As to I think the broader concern that there's no guarantee necessarily in the statute right now that it has to be initiated by a federal agency. And the one way to read the language is that it could be anybody who is owned, any citizen of one of those countries that's on the list who may be completely innocent, just that their government is terrible, would then be open to dissolution. Maybe that's something we could tighten up. I think the reality is that we're not going to be in a capacity to actually do something without our federal partners. The Secretary of State has no capacity to determine who is, a part of a foreign corporation that's doing harm to our national security and who isn't. And so my colleague from Sherman County is right. It has to be in the public interest to begin with. That's another sidebar that's part of all these subparagraphs, including subparagraph D. So I know I felt comfortable with it, Mr. Chairman, just because there's only really one, the Secretary of State's office does not have the ability to make this determination on its own. But if we want to have additional sidebars, we could delineate in second reading that there has to be some action initiated by a federal agency or something along those lines, if that helps alleviate some of the concerns.
Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the follow-up, and I think the sideboards that were just discussed might be the right approach. Looking at the CFR, it does clarify a little bit the foreign non-government persons are actually part of that list. So it's determined that the following foreign governments or foreign non-government persons have engaged. And then the sixth is Venezuelan politician Nicolas Maduro. So it's specifically one individual is on the list. So no other individual is listed. But as far as the sideboards, I guess the only remaining concern I had is owned by makes sense, although I don't know that anyone would ever say, like, who is this owned by, and then China signs China. I'm not entirely sure how that works on a form, right? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But the controlled by does seem, Mr. Chairman, to have some discretionary aspect that is unclear, and maybe if it were initiated by a challenge where a federal partner said that this entity appears to be controlled by this government, that would be a reasonable approach, as opposed to our Secretary of State's office trying to decide whether one of these governments has some influence over one of our citizens of the state who happens to also be a dual citizen, something along those lines. So maybe we can tighten down the control by through an initiation clause. I think that's an appropriate solution. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion on House Bill 69? Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I think about this bill, it occurs to me, if I'm the boogeyman from China and I want to operate in America, I just set up another corporation in Switzerland. And then from Switzerland, I come in and do what I'm going to do. And I mean, like I said, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I do understand corporate law and what's possible and what's not. And if you watch, we have those problems with the arms race and all kinds of stuff in the military. So my question is, how do we get to a point where we can control that? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Boner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hate to represent that somehow we're going to single-handedly take on all this, nefarious activity that we're concerned about within our own country. This is a very modest bill that simply, if there is an organization that happens to be domiciled in Wyoming, we're just going to say we're going to do our part to make sure it gets dissolved. Now, could they go register in a different country or a different state? Yes, of course. And we have no control over that. I don't want to represent that somehow we would. Same thing, I think the general point that my colleague from Abilene County made was accurate. It's, we have no ability. It's not as if they're signing their names. We are your enemies, but please approve us. That's why we have a national government. They're better at determining these things than we are. And so, yeah, I think this has been a good discussion. Don't want to represent that somehow we're saving the world here. But when it does occur in Wyoming, and it has, we should be able to deal with it swiftly.
Thank you, Senator. Any further discussion? Senator Nethercott.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, or Mr. Chairman, sorry. Wrong day, wrong. Mr. Chairman, no, just for clarity, I did go look at the CFR as designated, and I think what threw me was that there's only one individual identified. And so that seems odd to me that in the entire world, there's only one individual who was a politician in Venezuela. And so I thought that was curious, and that then our bill only would prohibit, at this point in time, one individual from owning a company. But I mean, I get it. I read how it works. I think it's fine. That CFR is odd. Thank you.
All right, question being called. All those in favor of Senator Case's motion that when the committee of the whole rises to report it, do so with a favorable recommendation of House Bill 69, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 69 has passed the committee of the whole. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 28. The reading clerk will please read the bill.
House Bill 28, Commercial Driver's Licenses Revisions, an act relating to motor vehicles, sponsored by the House Transportation Committee, was referred to Committee Number 8, which returned to committee recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Senators Anderson, Brennan, Cooper, and Pappas. No, Senator Kolb. Senator Pappas, Chairman.
You've heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure, Senator Pappas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, that it do so with a do pass recommendation on House Bill 28, Commercial Driver's License Revisions. And for an explanation, I'll just walk you through the bill. So, good senators, this bill does about four things. It amends grounds for disqualification from drivers driving a commercial motor vehicle for persons under 21 of age. It authorizes expunging records to be considered for purposes of the disqualification. It adds violations and qualify as a serious traffic violation, and it authorizes the department to waive examinations for commercial driver's license applicants. Most of this is required and for us to change our statutes to meet federal law. So I'll walk you through the bill. If you turn to page 2, you'll see under definitions, page 9, you'll see that a serious traffic violation means. So what we are doing here on the rest of this page and the next page is dealing with definitions. First one on line 11, we're just a addition there. You see it reads erratic lane changes. So we're just adding improper or erratic lane changes. Pretty simple change there. On line 14 and 15, and you'll see this in other lines as we go along. A serious violation, driving a commercial vehicle without obtaining a commercial driver's license. Well, you can also drive it using a commercial driver's license permit. So that was not in the original definition, and it should have been. So what we're doing is cleaning up that and adding or a commercial learner's permit. So you'll see that also on line 18 and 19. On line 20, 21, and 23, this was kind of an LSO change. Instead of an individual, the language should really read a person. It's a better language. So just a minor change there. On to page 3. Again, line 1, you'll see the commercial learner's permit also added, also on line 5 and 6. Now, as we get to the center of page 3, you'll see lines 10 through 15. So this, if state or local law prohibits using an electronic wireless communication device to write, send, or read text communications while driving, then this will be considered a serious traffic offense. We already have an offense for that reason, but now under this definition, we're going to add it to the list of serious traffic offenses. Same way on line 16 through 20, if a state or local law prohibits using a handheld electronic wireless communication device while driving commercial motor vehicle, this is also now added to the list of serious violations. Okay, on to page 4. Here at the top of the page in paragraph G, the department may waive the knowledge test, skills test, or both. Basically, right now, they have the ability to waive a skills test for getting the commercial driver's license. This is also authorizing now the ability to waive the knowledge test. And this is basically because of the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Association's even exchange program. There's a federal program that allows military members who have procured the driver's license through the military, that they can use their credentials through the military to also get a commercial driver's license without having to go through the process of taking the exam and the skills test. At the bottom of page 4 on line 21, you can see we're replacing individual with person again. Going on to page 5, I'll bring your attention to line 6 through 9. This is the expungement that I mentioned earlier. States that the expunged records relating to the suspension of a driver's license of a minor may be considered for purposes of disqualification from driving a commercial motor vehicle. So right now, if you are under 21 and have had a DOI, it can be expunged. This addition will allow any DUIs while you were under age to be considered when applying for a commercial driver's license. So it makes it just a little bit stricter. They can see that expungement doesn't happen if you're looking for a commercial driver's license. On to page 6. top of the page, lines 1 through 7, you'll see that this basically, this is a disqualification for a youthful offender. If it's, and again, this is in line with federal regulations that if there, if the violation for alcohol concentration in excess of 0.02% or more, and the person is under 21 years of age, then the commercial driver's license or the commercial learner's permit at the time of offense would be disqualified. Page on line 9, of course, there's just a renumbering. On Q, basically, if this paragraph 13, or on line 13, paragraph Q, basically is talking about obtaining the license in a fraudulent matter. So if you look at the bottom on line 21, we're striking once canceled, the license holder shall require to reapply to the department to obtain driver's license or commercial driver's permit. We're changing that now. We're putting a 1-year requirement. So it will read, the license holder shall have his license canceled and shall be disqualified for driving a commercial motor vehicle for a period of 1 year, adding the 1-year requirement before they can actually reapply again. Section 2 allows the department to promulgate rules. Section 3 gives us an effective date of this act of July 1. In paragraph A, and paragraph 2 allows them to prepare for implementation. So that's the bill. I would stand for questions.
Any discussion on the bill? Senator Pearson.
All right, I've got a couple questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what constitutes improper lane changes? Is that a number of seconds? Is that not signaling? Is that swerving to miss a deer? What constitutes that? That's my first question. Second question is on letter M, page 3, line 16. It says a violation of state or local law relating to motor vehicle traffic control that restricts or prohibits using a handheld electronic device, communication device, while driving a commercial motor vehicle. Well, as you all know, I drive across this state, usually weekly. And I have this in my front window with my playlist and my speaker so I can listen to music. This is a handheld electronic wireless communication device, and I use it almost every week driving across the state. No, I don't have it in my hand. No, I don't have it up to my ear, but I do use it, and I have it setting right there with my playlist. So is that gonna take my CD all away? Questions to ponder, but words mean a lot, and when it's written into statute, I think we need to consider that. Thank you.
Any additional discussion? Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a question on page 5 about the expungement of records. I'm curious what the discussion is related to that and the motivation behind it. I mean, the idea that you have an expunged record and then you say, all right, except for we're going to go ahead and read the record because we want to, kind of seems contrary to the idea of expunging a record. So is this a federal requirement? What's the motivation behind it? It does seem that if it can remain expunged, we might want it to remain expunged, but I'm sure there's more to it.
Any additional questions for the committee? Senator Pappas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Improper lane change, I could probably get a clear definition. It wasn't discussed in committee what actually is an improper lane change. I got to think that there is some definition out there, but I will check on second reading for you on improper lane changes and what that actually means, and see if I can bring some clarifying language for you on that. Regarding the issues on page 3 with the handheld devices, these are not new violations. These violations are already in law, okay? They're just in this section going under the definition of serious traffic violations. So it's just adding to the list. Certainly a device that is used in a vehicle that is hands-free is not part of this list, okay? So truck drivers all the time have pre-pass equipment. They have all sorts of things, or they got signals back and forth. That happens quite frequently. Same way with communication devices. So these are just handheld devices. And again, this is for safety. And it will be considered a serious traffic violation under this definition in 31.7.102. Again, they are already violations in other sections of statute. We're just putting them in here. As far as the question on page 5 regarding the expungement, the reason for that is in order for the violations, you have to, they look at the number of violations you've had in your past. So because of the CDL, if you were going for a regular driver's license, there wouldn't be a problem. There is not that higher standard. So anything that's expunged prior to the age 21 is not looked at. But what we're trying to, what the department would like to see is a higher level of scrutiny. And so I believe it's 1 or 2 times and you're out or something like that. It's asking to be able to look back if there was a DUI prior to you were 21. I could probably find out what the actual number of violations would be required to prohibit a license from being issued. I can certainly get that for the good senator from Laramie. But it was just explained to us that we want to look back prior to 21 for a DUI if we're going to give them a commercial driver's license.
Senator Pearson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm going to push back on this letter M again. I mean, if this is going to be considered a serious traffic violation and risks my CDL, I can understand speeding over 85 miles an hour. I've had one of those actually, and they told me if I get one more speeding ticket, I'm going to lose my CDL. I get that. But to tell drivers that they can't have, what? I did. Oh, anyway. So, but to tell a driver that they can't have a handheld device in front of them and that they could possibly, this could be considered a serious traffic violation when clearly my equipment is sitting right in the window of my bus. I don't have it up to my head. I'm not fiddling around with it. I am focused driving. I'm going to push back against this because I'm telling you that probably 80% of drivers across this state do the same thing. And we can't have a little earpiece in because we have to be able to hear our passengers and our coaches. So I'm pushing it back against that letter M. Clearly, letter K says that you cannot use an electronic wireless communication device to write, send, or read text-based communication. That I agree with. But letter M, I have to push back against. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's just look at read this section a little closer. So it says, a violation of state or local law relating to motor vehicle traffic control that restricts or prohibits using handheld electronic wireless communication devices while driving a commercial vehicle. So if there's a state or local law already on the books that prohibit that, then it's a violation. If there's not a state or local law that prohibits it, then it won't be a violation, okay? So it's a violation if those laws exist.
Any additional discussion? Senator Pearson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I understand that. I understand what you're saying. And there may be laws on the books that say that, but maybe those laws don't say that this is going to be considered a serious traffic violation, and you're going to lose your CDL after 2 of these violations. I can understand if there are laws on the books, but to change it from just a law on the book to what's considered a serious traffic violation that could cause drivers in this state to lose their CDLs, that's where I stand. Thank you.
Any further discussion on House Bill 28? All right, seeing none, sensing you're ready for the question. All those in favor of Senator Pappas's motion that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, that it do so with a favorable recommendation of House Bill 28, please say aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 28 has passed the Committee of the Whole. I'm going to take a quick privilege because my wife shares a birthday with Senator Dockstetter. And so I just wanted to send a birthday wishes out to her, and sorry I'm not there with her to celebrate. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 73. The reading clerk will please read the bill.
House Bill 73, Recreation Safety, Rock Climbing, an act relating to recreation safety, sponsored by Representative Larson. Was referred to Committee Number 6, which turned to committee recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Senators Boner, Hicks, Jones, Landon, and Schuler. Senator Landon, Chairman.
You've heard the reading of the bill. What's your pleasure, Senator Landon?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, it do so with a do-pass recommendation on House Bill 73, Recreation Safety, Rock Climbing. And to take us rock climbing, I'd ask that you call on the senator from Devil's Tower.
Senator Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I bring you House Bill 73, Recreation Safety Rock Climbing. Folks, this is really a simple bill. I think for almost everybody other than a few of the new ones, a number of years ago, we formed the Recreation Safety Act, which creates strict liability release for people letting things happen on their private grounds. We started out and we defined it on page 2, and as you go into it, we did, and we've added, some of these have been amendments, but basketball, softball, football, soccer, it goes on and on and on. We had climbing in here. All this bill does is specifies rock climbing. We got some areas of Wyoming that you could actually hit a deal liability-wise if they said, well, climbing on a hill is different than rock climbing. It's inherently dangerous. So that's all this does. Adds rock climbing into it, says if you're out on your place, you got a rock wall and somebody's climbing on it, they fall on it, you fall under the recreation law and you don't have the liability. With that, I'd ask for your favorable consideration. Stand for questions.
Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, and since you're ready for the question, all those in favor of Senator Landon's motion that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, it do so with a favorable recommendation of House Bill 73, please say aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 73 has passed the Committee of the Whole. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 30. The reading clerk will please read the bill.
House Bill 30 engrossed, driver's licenses and IDs revisions, an act relating to motor vehicles, sponsored by the House Transportation Committee. Was referred to Committee Number 8, which returned to committee recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Senators Anderson, Brennan, Cooper, Colvin, and Pappas. Senator Pappas, Chairman.
You've heard the reading of the bill. What's your pleasure, Senator Pappas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report that it do so with a due pass recommendation on House Bill number 30, driver's licenses and IDs revisions. And for an explanation of this House bill, I'd ask you to call on Senator Brennan.
Senator Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 30, driver's license and IDs revision. This came through joint transportation this interim. This is dealing with the renewal of licenses for persons under 21 years of age, also amending identification card content and clarifying some timelines. Hopefully, most things are in the title. Hopefully, we've kind of read that a little bit. On page 2, we talk about administrative hearings. The changes on this are on lines 17 and 18, where we strike the request and insert receipt of the certification record from the department. Then on page 3, the change that we're making over on page 3 is the fee for these IDs is going to be $20. Go over to page 4. What we're doing here is that a driver's license for somebody under the age of 21 currently expires on their 21st birthday, I do believe. And what we're doing is we're just going with the standard 5 years with every other driver's license. So after they get their graduated license, their full license, then that driver's license will expire in 5 years, which is like 16 to 21, I believe is 5. The engineer across the room can correct me if my math is wrong. And then we talk about replacement licenses and just put in a little bit of language there on those and how to get that. That's on pages 4 and 5. And then on page 6, on lines 5 through 9, we strike this card is provided solely for the purpose of identification of the person described on the error. And we just put on that it's for identification purposes only. And then this will go into effect on January 1, 2026.
Any discussion on the bill? Senator Barlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So on bottom of page 4, top of page 5, there is the replacement license, and there's an exception for commercial driver's license with the hazmat endorsements. I guess I'd like a little discussion about how that's being handled now for replacement licenses. Again, this is when someone loses their license, the way I read it above. So why are we treating hazmat licenses, endorsements, differently than any other license? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Pappas.
Mr. Chairman, that didn't actually come up in committee, so I will have to get back to the good senator. I'll get that information for you.
Any additional discussion on House Bill 30? Seeing none, question being called. All those in favor of Senator Pappas's motion that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, that it do so with a favorable recommendation of House Bill 30, please say aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 30 has passed the Committee of the Whole. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 4. The reading clerk will please read the bill.
House Bill 4 engrossed, snowmobile registration and users fees, an act relating to motor vehicles, sponsored by the House Travel Committee. It was referred to Committee Number 6, which returned to committee recommendation that it do pass amended. Ayes, Senators Boner, Hicks, Jones, Landon, and Schuler. Senator Landon, Chairman.
You've heard the reading of the bill. What's your pleasure, Senator Landon?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would move that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report it, do so with a due pass recommendation on House Bill 4, snowmobile registration and user fees. And for an explanation of the bill, I'd ask that you call on the former chairman of TRW from the Southwest. Thank you.
Senator Schuler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We bring you House Bill 4, snowmobile registration and user fees. Again, this was an interim committee bill that we worked in the interim, and it actually, it came about as a result of hearing from not only snowmobile users, but also our parks people that are maintaining the trails. The bottom line is they haven't had a fee increase since 2014, and obviously we know costs have gone up, not just with inflation, but gas, diesel, machinery, everything. Without this increase, the state parks people are at the point where, you know, they're not going to be able to maintain as many trails as they do right now. They have 2,600 miles of groomed trails that they do in the state, and they bring in thousands of people. I mean, the folks that are coming in from all over the country, as well as the world. You know, they're meeting people out there that have heard about our great groomed trails, and so they're coming from all over. So, you know, there's about 1,900 jobs that are provided as a result of what they do with our trails. And the bottom line is, without this fee increase, the point of no return is when when the black and the red don't meet, you know, your revenue sources are not making enough to keep up with inflation and with the costs of snow machines, snowcats, gas, diesel, and so on. So what this fee increase asks for is an increase. And actually, we looked at some other states and kind of compared to see what they were doing. And right now, the resident will go up to 50, commercial 150, non-resident 70. We do have a standing committee meeting that will amendment that we'll talk about a little bit later. And we added also antique snowmobiles to this bill because we're hearing that you know, a lot of our residents have the old timers. They know they have machines that might be 20 or 25 years old, and we're not so sure that they should be paying as much because they're really not coming in with the, you know, the $60,000 pickups and $30,000 trailers and $10,000, you know, snow machines and so on and so forth. They just want to come up and snowmobile on a weekend here and there. And so we added that, and it's a small fee, $25. So again, I just asked, what are some of the costs of, like a snowcat right now is anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000. And, you know, the thing is, not just those, but just the snow machines, because they use some of those also to maintain the trails. So some of it, they actually do have to contract out. But even the price of per mile of what contractors, years ago, they only maybe charged for $17 a mile. Now it's about $30 per mile. So everything has gone up. And in order to keep our trails groomed, to keep our parking lots maintained, keep the maps, keep our trail markers out there, keep our trails safe, but yet, you know, bring in the people that we want to bring in, as well as our locals. The snowmobile folks actually had approached us and asked about a fee increase. It's kind of surprising that they were interested in this increase because they don't want to see, you know, the groomed trails being cut in half or a third or whatever it might be because of prices. So with that, I would go ahead and have you read in. I don't think I had you read in the standing committee amendment, did I? Okay, let's have that read in.
House Bill 4, Standing Committee Amendment to Number 1 to engrossed copy, page 6, line 3, delete.
And I'll go ahead and move Standing Committee Number 1 to House Bill 4. Just to explain it real quick, on page 6, we deleted the $70 for the non-resident and inserted it to $75. And the reason for that is there'll definitely be a loss of revenue because if you have those antique snowmobiles that are normally paying a little bit more and they're only going to pay $25, there definitely would have been a loss of revenue. So we just added that $5 onto the non-resident fee to hopefully try and balance that out. And with that, I don't know if I've covered everything, but I think pretty much I have. So happy to answer questions, or I know some of our other people, our good senator from Southwest, she's a snowmobiler. She might even be able to answer more of the questions.
Any discussion on Standing Committee Amendment Number 1? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of Standing Committee Amendment Number 1, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Senator Schuler's amendment Senator Schuler's motion on standing committee amendment number 1 has been adopted. Senator Jones.
Mr. Chairman, I think that the most important thing is that the users are asking for this fee increase. So as a snowmobiler, sure is a lot nicer to ride on a groomed trail than it is to be bumping along on something that hasn't been groomed in a long time. So, and that is also important to our tourists. So when they come here, they're expecting the groomed trails. And our last study that I could find was done by our great university in 2021, and snowmobilers bring about $255 million to our economy. Could be a little higher now, but they definitely come here and pay their fair share. So this fee increase is asked for by the snowmobilers, and our state association is backing this bill as well.
Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On and for the bill, I think it's a good thing. There's one issue I have a little bit of heartburn with, and it's with the antique. And I don't mind having an antique category and with a reduced fee. What I don't like is it's not an annual fee, okay? It's a one-time fee, and it's the same thing as our antique vehicles, our Pioneer plates. And if I was actually going to bring a bill to change that again, we tried a few years ago. The problem is you give them an antique plate, then you never know, you never hear from them again, okay? Same, right now we've got on, I don't know how many antique snowmobiles we have out there. I know we have in excess of 5,000 antique cars out on our roads that we don't know if they're on the road or off the road. I prefer that if we allow an antique plate, we make it at least annual, because these people have to provide insurance. If they're on the road, they have to provide liability insurance. I'm assuming that's true with snowmobiles. Maybe I'm not. Maybe the good senator could enlighten me, but I would think, and the only way to know if you're providing insurance is to have annually someone saying, yes, I have an insurance. And I don't care what the fee is, it can be $10 a year, just enough to cover the processing costs. We don't have to make any money on them. I don't want to make any money on them. They've paid enough registration over the years. But I'd like to be able to know how many people are out there using these vehicles, and if they've paid the insurance and they're keeping their vehicles maintained as they should be. So thank you.
Senator Jones.
One reason for that fee for the antique snowmobiles is because these aren't snowmobiles that people are riding every weekend. There's a lot of events that are held in Wyoming and in other states that are just made for these really old snowmobiles. So they bring them out maybe once a year, maybe once every 2 or 3 years to ride in these events. They might bump down a trail for a little while, but snowmobiles have advanced a lot in the last 10 years. And trust me, if you want to ride every weekend, you probably have a newer snowmobile. And so this actually was, that date change from 20 to 30 years was done by our friends down the hall. We did have a 30-year-old agreement in there, but they did change that to 20 years old. But these are not snowmobiles that are being used all the time. So that was why we came up with this antique sticker. And I'm not sure if we brought that fee down, if it would even cover having printed. People have to show their VIN numbers, and it's a big rigmarole. So I'm not even sure if we charged a nominal fee, if we would even get it back on that. So there is a cost associated with producing these stickers.
Senator Schuler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we had a lot of discussion on this antique snowmobile thing, strangely enough, and I was really fine with 30 or even 25 years. I mean, what do you consider antique? I don't know that I considered that antique, but we kind of followed along what they have in statute for the cars, and so that's sort of where we ended up. So we might be A-okay with bumping that up again to 25 or 30, that's the will of the group. And again, if we did that, then I think we'd be okay just to leave it as a one-time fee. If we keep it at 20 and everyone's comfortable with that, and we want to add another small fee of $10 versus 25 each year, I think that would also be something we could take a look at, second reading.
Senator Anderson.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question on the commercial snowmobile. If I have a business in Jackson and I rent snowmobiles, it looks to me like I pay $150 a year per snowmobile. But if I'm in West Yellowstone, which is in Montana, and I'm competing with the Jackson guys, I'm a non-resident and I pay $70 per machine, which would give me a little advantage on the Jackson guys. Is that how that would work, or would they be treated as commercial?
Senator Schuler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good question. I'm fairly certain that everyone, I think, when they register as a commercial vendor, probably understands that fee, whether, because we have some folks even across the border into Utah, excuse me, that state west of us, that they ride their machines into Wyoming. The bottom line is they beat the living heck out of those trails. And they always have, a group, like 10, 12, sometimes 20 people. And so it is a lot of wear and tear on the folks that are doing the grooming. So we felt like the fee was reasonable. And even if they do go out of state, I think we really did look real closely at other states to see what they were doing, make sure that we're all in the same ballpark.
Senator Landon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regarding the good senator's questions, that we do have communities over on the west side of Yellowstone Park that put a lot of commercial machines into the trails and on down through the park, and those are commercial machines, and so they're all going to be on the same footing. If they want to ride in Wyoming, they're going to have a commercial license on those machines, and the thinking on the commercial side was the fact that those machines are on that trail every day. They're running every single day and using those trails hard. So it seemed reasonable to the committee that now the $70 out-of-state fee, that's an individual that would come in from a state to the north, or maybe the state to our west and come across, but they better have the $70 registration fee to ride on our trails. So hope that helps.
Any additional discussion on House Bill 4? Question being called. All those in favor of Senator Landon's motion that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, that it do so with a favorable recommendation of House Bill 4, please say aye. Opposed, no. House Bill 4 has passed the Committee of the Whole. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 61. The reading clerk will please read the bill.
House Bill 61 engrossed. State Land Lease Preference Amendments, an act relating to state land leasing sponsored by Representative Banks, was referred to Committee Number 5, which returned a committee recommendation that it do pass. Ayes Senators French, Ide, McCune, and Pearson. Excuse Senator Crago. Senator French, Chairman.
You've heard the reading of the bill. What's your pleasure, Senator French?
I move that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, it do so with the recommendation that House Bill 61 do pass. And for an explanation, I call on Senator Pearson.
Senator Pearson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senators, I have a great bill here for you today. Okay, so this bill, I'm going to read the definition. An act relating to state land leasing authorizing a person who is not currently in violation of the terms of their state land lease to have a preferred right to renew their lease and providing for an effective date. So this is a simple fix that closes a loophole. Current language allows for a contested case to be heard on the grounds that someone was ever in violation of their lease. This changes it so that it reads, who is not currently in violation of that lease. The preferred right to renew that lease. So it's just changing that wording from who is not currently in violation, well, from, what does it change? Let's see, it changes someone who was ever in violation to who is not currently in violation. So as long as they have come into compliance, they will have that ability under this bill. It's important to allow the current leaseholder the preferred right to renew so long as they are not currently in violation. Do you guys have any questions? I'll stand for questions if you have any.
Any discussion or questions? Senator Scott.
Mr. Chairman, as I've told the Senate a number of times, we have quite a number of state leases in our family farming and ranching operation. I want to declare a conflict of interest on this bill. It does make it easier to keep that preference because nobody can go back into history and find some violation, dredge it up. That I don't think we have any such, but no telling what somebody might find in the long history of the family operation. So, Mr. Chairman, I will declare a conflict of interest on this bill.
Senator Landon.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And that really helped. That the previous speaker helped me a little bit on the violation piece. I just was curious what kind of violation would disqualify someone from having that continued opportunity at that lease. And I'm looking at the center part of the room, that the senator from downriver from me, we have wrangled with this for quite some time. And I think we're starting to get it right. I'm not sure what sorts of violations would disqualify a landowner from receiving this preference, because I think it's important. Thank you.
Senator Ide.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I asked the same question in committee. I don't know if I can remember. Some of my committee members may be able to help too, but primarily it's your lease payment, your grazing lease payment. That's usually the number one issue that comes up with the state land office. And then there could be overgrazing issues potentially. And I can't remember what else they said there, but typically it's almost 99% has to do with missing a lease payment on their grazing lease. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Scott.
And Mr. Chairman, the grazing lease is fairly easy to do, especially when you have a number of them. I know one time we paid our main ones and there was a small piece that was billed separately that just got missed. And we had to pay it later, and I think there was a slight penalty for that. That sort of thing can happen very easily. And if somebody were to get mad at you under the current system, maybe they could go dredge that up and take that little piece of state lease. I think that's probably the most common. There are some other regulations with regard if something gets leased out, you have to make them a certain payment, or if you put some facilities on state land and maybe don't get approval from them that you're supposed to. There's some other things there that could happen, Mr. Chairman, but missing a lease payment is the easy one.
Any additional discussion on House Bill 61? Seeing none, question being called. All those in favor of Senator French's motion that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, that it do so with a favorable recommendation of House Bill 61, please say aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 61 has passed the Committee of the Whole. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 92. The reading clerk will please read the bill.
House Bill 92, Wyoming Livestock Board Memorandums of Understanding, an act relating to the Wyoming Livestock Board, sponsored by the House Agriculture Committee, was referred to Committee Number 5, which is a committee recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Senators Craigo, French, Ide, McEwen, and Pearson. Senator French, Chairman.
You've heard the reading of the bill. What's your pleasure, Senator French?
I move that when the committee of the whole rises to report it, do so with the recommendation that House Bill 92 do pass. And this is short and sweet, I'll take it. It's just asking the Wyoming Livestock Board to work with surrounding states and report back to the Joint Ag Interim Committee next year on on any livestock that comes out of the state of Wyoming into their state. So it's just see if they can work out anything with the surrounding states and report back. So it's just not much here.
Questions or discussion on House Bill 92? Seeing none, sensing your urge to vote, all those in favor of Senator French's motion that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report it, do so with a favorable recommendation of House Bill 92, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. House Bill 92 has passed the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Majority Floor Leader, excuse me, Madam Majority Floor Leader.
I think that's illegal now. Mr. Chairman, I move that the Committee of the Whole rise and report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries. Mr. President.
Committee of the Whole report.
Mr. President, your Committee of the Whole, having had under considerations bills on general file, begs leave to report as follows. House Bill 11 engrossed, do pass. House Bill 82, do pass. House Bill 75, do pass. House Bill 14, do pass. House Bill 22, do pass. House Bill 41 engrossed, do pass. House Bill 69, do pass. House Bill 28, do pass. House Bill 73, do pass. House Bill 30 engrossed, do pass. House Bill 4 engrossed, do pass, amended. House Bill 61 engrossed, do pass. House Bill 92, do pass. Senator Craigo, Chairman.
All right. Senator Craigo. Sorry, I was talking to Alan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Committee of the Whole report is adopted despite the objection of Senator Hicks. For the record, we do have a standing committee report. Randy, would you read that in, please?
Mr. President, this report is dated February 13, 2025. Committee number 2, Appropriations, to whom is referred House Bill 199 engrossed, Wyoming Freedom Scholarship Act. Respectfully report same back to the Senate with a recommendation that it do pass amended. Ayes, Senators Driscoll, Larson, Salazar, and Smith. No, Senator Guru. Senator Salazar, Chairman.
Thank you. All right, Madam Majority Floor Leader, that clears the desk.
Mr. President, I move that we stand adjourned until 10 a.m. Friday, February 14th, 2025.
All right, any announcements? Oh, we have announcements. Let's go to Revenue Committee here. Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Revenue Committee number 3 will meet Friday, February 14th in room W006 and online. We will take up House Bill 38, ad valorem taxation payment and credit of penalties. House Bill 39, property tax refund program revisions. And House Bill 40, sales and use tax revisions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Chairman Schuler.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, just to reiterate, the Education Committee number 4 will meet tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock. Same place, W110 and online. We'll take a look at House Bill 316 engrossed, the School Finance Model Recalibration -2. And if time permits, we'll take a look at House Bill 17, Career Technical Education Equipment Grants Amendments, if time permits.
Thank you very much. Senator Landon?
Mr. President, thank you. Projecting all the way ahead to next Tuesday because of that Monday holiday, I just wanted to get out in front and let people know that we will take up House Bill 5 on Tuesday morning next week, fishing outfitters and guides, registration of fishing boats. That one may take some time, and if time permits, we'll take up House Bill 211, engrossed, hunting wildlife from vehicles. That's at 8 a.m. next Tuesday, Mr. Chairman.
As long as they're not otters, okay. Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too want to put out our Tuesday meeting announcement. So your Transportation, Highways, and Military Affairs Committee, Committee number 8, will be meeting next Tuesday on the 18th to consider 2 more House bills. House Bill 116, driver's license, unauthorized alien restrictions, and House Bill 226, license plate search and rescue council.
Thank you. Let's work our way across the room here to good old Judiciary Committee.
Yes, since we're making Tuesday announcements, I'll jump on that. And your committee, number 1, Judiciary, will meet in its normal place of abode to continue to consider House Bill 172, repeal gun-free zones and preemption amendments.
Thank you. All right, how's my Minerals Committee looking?
Mr. President, your favorite committee, Minerals, Business and Economic Development, will meet tomorrow, Valentine's Day, upon noon recess at Capital Extension Room W4 to consider 3 bills. House Bill 264, Central Bank Digital Currencies Prohibitions. House Bill 214, Local Government Payments, Electronic Payments. House Bill 183, engrossed net metering amendments. Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you, sir. Any other announcements? Any other announcements? Seeing none, you all heard the majority leader's motion. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The Senate will stand adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow.